I'm Soraya Vishcha, and I'm the head chair of the SDG 10 Reduced Inequalities Committee at this year's MSMUNQ conference, the place where you will find solutions to issues that matter. 79.5 million people globally are displaced, and 26 million of those are refugees. Children comprise half of that population. You're here to find solutions to the issue of measures to provide access to primary education for refugees on an international scale.
From Syria to South Sudan to Yemen, thousands of children are dodging bullets and bombs. Once they reach safety, guiding them back to the classroom is essential. It gives them a safe place to learn and to play. Without education, they're especially vulnerable, easy targets for sexual violence, exploitation, trafficking, forced recruitment, or extremist doctrines. Whether in camps or cities, school offers these eager learners a lifeline, equipping them with the skills and confidence to actively contribute to their communities and societies. The role school plays in a refugee child's life can be transformative. And it is the one asset they will take with them wherever they go.
The world is shattered by conflicts, persecution, human rights violations, famine, and environmental disasters. While none of these issues are new, the global refugee crisis as we know it began with the end of World War II and reached its peak in the last decade. Almost 70% of global refugees come from only 5 countries. The conflicts won't be solved overnight, but refugee education cannot continue to suffer. The global primary school enrollment is 91%. For refugees, it is 63%. As we progress through secondary and higher education, the rates drop drastically. The implications of this are multifold. Not going to school increases the risk of exploitation, trafficking, violence, and child marriage for these children. It does not provide them with the tools and care to recover psychologically from their trauma. It strips them from having a normal childhood and integrating into the new society. If they cannot pursue higher education, they cannot start a new life in their host countries, and neither can they work towards rebuilding their torn homelands. The problem is that 80% of refugees are in developing countries, which are struggling themselves. On top of that, only 3% of humanitarian aid for refugees goes towards education. We all know the saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for life. It is necessary that refugee education receives more aid than resources. We must also look at the top hosting countries, Turkey, Colombia, Pakistan, Uganda, and Germany. While Turkey has the largest number of refugees in the world, Lebanon and Jordan have the largest number relative to national population. Theorizing is not enough. We can all agree that primary education is a basic human right, but that still leaves the question of ensuring it.
Human Rights Watch estimated last year about 12,000 school-aged children were living on the Greek islands, but only 400 were enrolled in formal classes. Teachers at the Vial refugee camp on Chios are busy making sure that isn't repeated.
It's very important for every child, but especially for those children who are traumatized, to be able to experience normality, routine, and childhood.
In June, more than 500 refugees arrived on the island of Chios, and that kind of influx makes it really difficult for the teachers here to plan their classes because they simply don't know how many students they're going to have. But it's a challenge these teachers are willing to embrace.
These kids are not expected to stay here for very long, but even one day of school, I'm definitely sure that it can make a difference to people's lives.
Especially after everything these children have endured.
Language barriers, lack of infrastructure, safety concerns, impermanent residence, and the need to financially help the family are major obstacles. We have UNHCR, UNICEF, Save the Children, and the governments of Turkey and Germany among the most important actors. We need structured language programs, the bettering of refugee camps and the building of education spaces there, the integration of refugee children into local schools, and the providing of valid school diplomas for them. We need collaboration between governments and organizations to create and enforce legislation and work systematically. The world has enough books, pens, and teachers for every child. Refugee children are the most vulnerable of our vulnerable, and we cannot fail them. It is our duty and their right.